Lisa Grant stood up from her chair and walked toward the exit doors of the Galactic Council chamber. Behind her, 12 alien species continued their heated debate about humanity's place in the galaxy. The massive room, filled with strange voices speaking in languages that hurt human ears to hear. Lisa had listened to the same arguments for 3 months now, and she was tired of it all. The Zephyrian ambassador was speaking again about how humans were too dangerous to trade with freely. His blue skin glowed brighter when he got angry, and right now he looked like a small star. The other council members nodded their weird heads in agreement. Some had tentacles instead of arms, and others had too many eyes to count. Lisa had tried to be polite to all of them, but they never showed her the same respect. The vote came as expected. 12 votes to keep the trade embargo against human colonies. 0 votes to lift it. Lisa was the only human in the room, and her vote did not count because Earth was still considered a junior member species. The Council had made this rule when humans first joined 50 years ago, and they refused to change it. Lisa walked through the corridor of Nexus Station, thinking about everything that had gone wrong. The station was huge and filled with aliens from across the galaxy. Most of them ignored her as she passed by. A few stared at her like she was some kind of animal in a zoo. Humans were still new to most of these species, and they did not trust what they did not understand. Her communication device buzzed with an urgent message from Earth. Captain Jake Morrison was calling from the Earth Defense Fleet headquarters. His face appeared on the small screen, and Lisa could see he was not happy about something. Jake had been fighting for human rights in space for 20 years, and he looked tired of the constant battles. Jake told Lisa that Earth had made a decision. All human diplomatic missions would be recalled immediately. Every embassy would close. Every trade post would shut down. Every human ship working with alien species would return to human space right away. The message was clear and simple. If the galaxy did not want to treat humans as equals, then humans would leave them alone completely. Lisa felt a mix of sadness and relief. She had spent 5 years trying to make the Council listen to human concerns, but they always found new excuses to vote against humanity. The other species seemed to think humans were useful only as workers and soldiers. They wanted human technology and human labor, but they did not want to give humans any real power in return. Within hours, the recall order went out to every human facility in the galaxy. Space stations that humans had built began shutting down their systems. Ships that had been carrying cargo for alien companies turned around and headed back to Earth territory. Communication networks that humans had installed and maintained across 17 star systems went dark, one by one. The human embassy on Trilax received the shutdown order at midnight local time. Ambassador Roy Banks gathered his staff and began destroying sensitive documents according to protocol. The Trilaxians who worked at the embassy asked what was happening, but Roy could only tell them that humans were going home. He did not explain when they might come back because he did not know the answer himself. On the mining station at Kepler 442, the human crew received their orders while they were in the middle of extracting rare metals from an asteroid field. Chief Engineer Amy Sullivan supervised the shutdown of equipment that had taken 3 years to install. The alien mining companies that owned the rights to these asteroids would have to find someone else to do the dangerous work of getting close to unstable rocks in space. Back on Nexus Station, the alien council members were celebrating their victory over the stubborn humans. Counselor Vexitar from the hegemony species was telling anyone who would listen that humans had finally learned their place in the galaxy. He said humans would come back begging for trade agreements within a few days, because Earth could not survive without alien markets. The other counselors agreed with Vextar. They believed humans were dependent on alien technology and alien trade routes. None of them had bothered to study how much humans actually contributed to the galactic economy. They saw humans as newcomers who should be grateful for any scraps the older species threw their way. Lisa Grant packed her personal belongings in her embassy office. She looked out the window at the busy docking bays where ships from hundreds of species came and went every day. Many of those ships were carrying cargo that human pilots had delivered to this station. Many of the systems keeping this station running had been designed by human engineers. The aliens did not seem to realize how much they depended on human work to keep their civilization functioning smoothly. The last human diplomatic ship left Nexus Station just before dawn. Lisa watched the alien counselors through her cabin window as her ship pulled away from the docking port. They were still celebrating and making jokes about stubborn humans who could not take a hint. None of them looked worried about what would happen next. Lisa almost felt sorry for them because they had no idea what was coming. 3 weeks passed since the last human ship had left alien space, and strange problems were starting to appear across the galaxy. The Trilaxian Merchant Guild received their first complaint on a Tuesday morning when a cargo shipment that should have taken 2 days to deliver was already a week late. Guildmaster Zeklon tried to contact the shipping company but found out they had been using human pilots to navigate through dangerous hyperspace routes. The hyperspace lanes that connected different star systems were not easy to travel. Most species could only use the safest and slowest routes because the dangerous ones required split-second timing and perfect navigation skills. Human pilots had been flying these risky paths for years because they were fearless and their reflexes were faster than most alien species. Now those routes were empty and cargo ships had to take the long way around. On Korath Prime, a plague had been spreading through the population for 6 months. The disease caused painful sores and high fever that could kill within days if not treated properly. Dr. Amy Sullivan had been working at the main hospital with her team of human doctors using advanced medical equipment that could heal the sickness in hours instead of weeks. When the recall order came, the human medical ships packed up their equipment and left immediately. The Korathi doctors tried to continue the treatment using their own methods, but they did not understand how the human machines worked. The healing devices that could repair damaged tissue and fight infection were too complex for alien medical training. Within days, the death count began to rise as more patients arrived at hospitals that could no longer help them properly. Commander Roy Banks had been overseeing mining operations in the Vega asteroid field where the rocks contained rare metals needed for spaceship engines. The work was extremely dangerous because the asteroids were unstable and could explode without warning. Most alien species refused to work in such conditions, but humans seemed to enjoy the challenge. Roy's teams had been extracting more valuable materials in 1 year than alien mining companies could gather in 10 years. When Roy received the shutdown order, he followed his instructions exactly. All human mining equipment was loaded onto transport ships and taken back to Earth territory. The asteroid field was left empty except for a few alien observation posts that had been watching human operations from a safe distance. The aliens had never tried to do the mining work themselves because they considered it too risky for the potential rewards. The galactic stock market began showing signs of trouble when rare metal prices started climbing higher each day. Companies that built spaceships found themselves unable to get the materials they needed for construction. The metals that humans had been mining were essential for faster-than-light engines, and without them, new ships could not be built. Old ships began breaking down more often because replacement parts were becoming impossible to find. President Helen Carter held a press conference on Earth to explain the new isolation policy to human citizens. She stood behind a podium in the Capitol building and spoke calmly about the decision to cut all ties with alien civilizations. Helen explained that humans had tried for decades to be good partners with other species, but they were never treated as equals in return. Earth would now focus on taking care of its own people and its own colonies without worrying about alien approval. The president announced that Earth's colonies had been preparing for this situation for several months. Human settlements on distant worlds had built up supplies of food and equipment so they could survive without alien trade. Advanced factories had been secretly constructed to produce everything humans needed, including medicines and technology that they had previously bought from alien markets. Back in the alien sectors of the galaxy, the Zenthari Banking Consortium was discovering serious problems with their financial computer systems. The quantum processors that handled trillions of credits worth of transactions every day were starting to malfunction. Error messages appeared on screens throughout their headquarters, and money transfers began failing randomly. The Zenthari had never understood how these systems worked because they had hired human programmers to build and maintain them. Detective Nick Harrison had been the galaxy's best investigator when it came to solving crimes that involved multiple species. His unique ability to understand different alien cultures and psychology had made him famous across 17 star systems. Criminal organizations feared Nick because he could predict their behavior and catch them before they completed their illegal activities. With Nick gone, the crime syndicates began operating more boldly, knowing that no one else had his skills. Space pirates started attacking merchant ships more frequently because they knew alien security forces could not track them effectively. The investigation techniques that human detectives used were too advanced for most alien law enforcement agencies to copy. Within weeks, shipping companies were hiring expensive private security teams to protect their cargo vessels. But even these guards were not as effective as human peacekeepers had been. Engineer Matt Collins had been maintaining a secret facility that controlled the galaxy's main hyperspace communication network. The system allowed instant messages to be sent between star systems that were thousands of light years apart. Most aliens assumed the network was automated, but it actually required constant human supervision to prevent dangerous feedback loops that could destroy entire communication arrays. When Matt received his recall order, he began the careful process of shutting down the network without causing permanent damage. He left behind automated systems that would keep basic functions running for a while, but without human oversight, the network would slowly degrade until it failed completely. Matt estimated that most star systems would lose long-range communication within 6 months if no one took over his maintenance work. The first signs of communication breakdown appeared in the Outer Rim territories, where alien colonies began losing contact with their home worlds. Military commanders found themselves unable to coordinate with their fleets across multiple star systems. Trade agreements that depended on instant communication started falling apart as businesses could not verify transactions or coordinate deliveries. Counselor Vexitar was beginning to worry about reports coming from his home planet. The hegemony's economy depended heavily on interstellar trade, and the growing problems with shipping and communication were costing them millions of credits every day. Other council members were receiving similar reports, but none of them wanted to admit that removing humans from the galaxy might have been a mistake. President Helen Carter stood before the United Earth Government Assembly and confirmed what everyone already knew. Humanity would pursue complete isolation from all alien civilizations until they learned to treat humans as equals. The massive hall filled with representatives from every human colony fell silent as Helen explained that Earth had been preparing for this moment for over a year. Secret stockpiles of resources had been built up, and new factories had been constructed in hidden locations throughout human space. Helen told the assembly that humanity could survive and prosper without any help from alien species. Human colonies had developed new farming techniques that could feed billions of people using advanced hydroponic systems. Mining operations in human territory were producing enough rare metals to build whatever technology Earth needed. Most importantly, human scientists had made breakthrough discoveries that would advance human civilization far beyond what aliens thought possible. The president announced that all human borders were now closed to alien ships. Any vessel that tried to enter human space would be turned away politely but firmly. Earth would not engage in any trade negotiations or diplomatic talks until the Galactic Council acknowledged humans as a founding member species with full voting rights. Until that happened, humanity would take care of itself and leave the aliens to solve their own problems. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the economic situation was getting worse every day. The Zenthari Banking Consortium faced complete collapse, as their computer systems continued to malfunction without human programmers to fix them. Trillions of credits were trapped in accounts that could not be accessed. Major corporations found themselves unable to pay their workers or buy supplies because the banking network was failing. Counselor Orth of the Zenthari species called an emergency meeting with his financial advisors to discuss the crisis. The advisors explained that their entire monetary system had been built using human-designed algorithms that were far more advanced than anything Zenthari mathematicians could understand. The humans had created quantum computing systems that could process millions of transactions simultaneously without errors, but now those systems were breaking down. The Zenthari had always been proud of their reputation as the galaxy's best bankers, but they were discovering that human innovation had been the foundation of their success. Without human technology, their banking empire was crumbling and taking the rest of the galactic economy down with it. Other species were demanding answers, but Orth had no solutions to offer them. Detective Nick Harrison's absence was being felt throughout the galaxy as crime rates soared to levels not seen in centuries. The Nexus Station security chief reported that theft and smuggling had increased by 300% in just 1 month. Criminal organizations that had been hiding in fear of human investigators were now operating openly because they knew alien law enforcement could not catch them. The methods that human detectives used to solve interspecies crimes were too complex for alien security forces to replicate. Nick and his team had developed psychological profiles of criminal behavior that worked across dozens of different species. They understood how different alien cultures thought and could predict criminal actions before they happened. Without this knowledge, alien police forces were always one step behind the criminals. Space piracy became so common that many shipping companies stopped operating in certain sectors of the galaxy. The pirates knew that alien patrol ships could not track them through asteroid fields or nebula clouds where human pilots had previously hunted them down. Insurance costs for cargo shipments increased by 500% as companies tried to cover their losses from constant attacks. Engineer Matt Collins's hyperspace communication network was failing exactly as he had predicted. Star systems in the Outer Rim lost contact with galactic civilization first, as the automated systems could not handle the complex maintenance requirements. Military commanders found themselves unable to coordinate defense strategies across multiple planets. Trade negotiations fell apart when businesses could not communicate with their partners in distant star systems. The communication breakdown had unexpected consequences that went far beyond simple message delays. Scientific research projects that involved multiple species ground to a halt when researchers could not share data across star systems. Medical emergencies became deadly when doctors could not consult with specialists on other planets. Even weather monitoring systems failed when satellites could not transmit information to prediction centers. Dr. Amy Sullivan's medical research had been saving lives throughout the galaxy, but now alien hospitals were running out of the advanced medicines that humans had been producing. The healing devices that could cure diseases in hours instead of months required specific chemical compounds that only human laboratories knew how to synthesize. Without these medicines, common illnesses were becoming deadly again. The plague on Korath Prime had spread to 3 other planets in the same star system. Korathi doctors were working desperately to treat patients using primitive methods while death counts climbed higher each day. The advanced surgical techniques that human doctors had taught them required equipment that was too complex for alien medical schools to understand or reproduce. Commander Roy Banks reported to Earth Command that several alien mining companies had tried to continue operations in the dangerous asteroid fields that humans had abandoned. 3 major accidents had already occurred, resulting in the deaths of hundreds of alien workers. The mining techniques that humans used in high-risk environments required years of training and specialized equipment that other species did not possess. The rare metals that were essential for faster-than-light travel were becoming impossible to obtain as alien mining operations failed one after another. Spaceship construction companies began rationing materials, and many stopped building new vessels entirely. Existing ships were breaking down faster than they could be repaired because replacement parts contained metals that only humans knew how to extract safely. Professor Claire Bennett's distributed artificial intelligence systems were shutting down across the galaxy, taking critical infrastructure with them. These AI networks had been managing everything from traffic control on busy planets to life support systems on space stations. The aliens had become so dependent on these automated systems that they never learned how to operate them manually. Power grids failed on major worlds, plunging billions of alien citizens into darkness. Water treatment plants stopped working, leaving entire populations without clean drinking water. Transportation networks collapsed as traffic management systems went offline. The aliens were discovering that human technology had become so integrated into their daily lives that they could not function without it. The Galactic Council called emergency sessions every day, but none of the member species had solutions to offer. They had spent decades dismissing human contributions as minor support services, but now they realized that humans had been holding their entire civilization together. The economic and technological collapse was accelerating, and panic was beginning to spread through alien populations who did not understand why their advanced society was falling apart so quickly. The Galactic Council decided to send diplomatic envoys to human space, hoping to negotiate a quick end to the crisis that was destroying their civilization. Counselor Vextar volunteered to lead the first mission, believing that his species' reputation for tough negotiation would convince the humans to return. He assembled a fleet of 12 ships carrying gifts and trade offers that he thought would be impossible for Earth to refuse. The envoy fleet approached the outer boundary of human territory, where they encountered something they had never seen before. A massive defensive grid stretched across the entire border of human space, with sensors and weapons platforms positioned at every possible entry point. Security Chief Karen Walsh of the Sol Defense Grid monitored the alien approach from her command center and prepared to follow her strict orders about unauthorized visitors. Karen opened a communication channel to the alien fleet and delivered a polite but firm message. All alien vessels were required to turn around immediately and leave human space. No exceptions would be made for diplomatic missions or emergency situations. Any ship that attempted to cross the border would be escorted out by human patrol vessels. The isolation policy was absolute and would remain in effect until the Galactic Council met Earth's demands for equal representation. Counselor Vextar tried to argue that his mission was too important for such restrictions. He explained that the galaxy was facing an economic crisis that threatened billions of lives and only human cooperation could solve it. Karen listened to his entire speech before repeating her instructions for the alien fleet to leave immediately. When Vextar asked to speak with higher-ranking human officials, Karen informed him that her orders came from the highest levels of Earth government and would not be changed. The alien envoys returned to Nexus Station with news of their failure. Other council members were shocked to learn that humans had built such an impressive defensive system so quickly. None of them had realized that Earth possessed the military technology to enforce a complete blockade of their territory. The human border was now as impenetrable as a fortress wall, and the aliens had no way to force their way through it. Engineer Matt Collins had been working in a secret facility for 5 years, maintaining the galaxy's hyperspace network, but the aliens had never bothered to learn where this facility was located or how it operated. They had simply accepted that faster-than-light communication worked and never questioned who was making it possible. Now they were paying the price for their ignorance as more star systems lost contact with the rest of the galaxy every day. Desperate, alien governments began offering massive rewards to anyone who could locate Matt's facility and restart the communication network. Teams of the best alien engineers and scientists searched through technical databases looking for clues about how the system worked. they found incomplete blueprints and maintenance logs, but nothing that explained the core technology that kept messages flowing across thousands of light years. The search teams discovered that human engineering approaches were fundamentally different from alien methods. Where alien technology relied on brute force and redundant systems, human designs used elegant solutions that accomplished more with less. The quantum processors that handled galactic communications were built using mathematical principles that even the most advanced alien scientists could not fully understand. Professor Claire Bennett's artificial intelligence networks were shutting down faster than anyone had expected. The distributed systems that managed critical infrastructure across the galaxy had been designed to degrade slowly if maintenance stopped, but the cascade failures were accelerating beyond all predictions. Every AI system that went offline caused problems for other connected systems, creating a chain reaction of technological collapse. Major cities on alien homeworlds began experiencing rolling blackouts as power management systems failed. The AI networks that balanced electrical grids across entire planets were too complex for manual operation. Alien engineers tried to take direct control of power plants, but they lacked the training to prevent dangerous overloads that could cause explosions or permanent damage to equipment. Space stations throughout the galaxy declared emergency conditions as life support systems began malfunctioning. The atmospheric processors that maintained breathable air for millions of inhabitants required constant adjustment to prevent toxic buildup or oxygen depletion. Without AI oversight, these delicate systems were failing at random intervals, leaving station populations in constant danger. Captain Tony Bell had been monitoring deep space from a network of sensor arrays positioned at the edge of the galaxy. His job was to watch for threats approaching from dark space, where no star systems existed and unknown dangers might be lurking. The alien species had never been told about this monitoring network because humans wanted to avoid causing panic about potential threats that might never materialize. With Tony's recall to deep space, monitoring system went dark, leaving the galaxy blind to whatever might be approaching from the empty regions beyond known star systems. The sensor arrays were designed to detect unusual energy signatures or large objects moving at faster than light speeds. Without human operators, these systems could not distinguish between natural phenomena and artificial threats. The insectoid hive queen was the first alien leader to realize that humans might have been protecting the galaxy from unknown dangers. Her species had excellent long-range sensors, and they began detecting strange signals from the direction where human monitoring posts had been located. The signals suggested that something large was moving through dark space toward the outer rim of the galaxy, but without human expertise, the insectoids could not determine what they were seeing. Detective Nick Harrison's absence created a power vacuum in galactic law enforcement that criminal organizations were eager to fill. The most dangerous crime syndicates had been operating in small cells and hiding in remote locations to avoid human investigators. Now they began merging into larger organizations and establishing permanent bases in systems where alien police forces were too weak to challenge them. Drug smuggling operations expanded rapidly as criminals realized that alien border patrols could not detect the sophisticated hiding methods that humans had been trained to recognize. Weapons trafficking increased as black market dealers discovered that alien customs inspectors did not understand human scanning technologies. Slavery rings that had been dismantled by human anti-trafficking units began rebuilding their networks. The Galactic Council held increasingly desperate emergency sessions as reports of system failures poured in from across their territory. Counselor Orth suggested that they should formally apologize to humanity and offer them full membership in the Council with voting rights equal to any other species. Other Council members resisted this idea because it would mean admitting that they had been wrong about human capabilities and importance. Counselor Yeath of the Diplomatic Corps proposed secret negotiations with Earth through unofficial channels. She had maintained personal friendships with several human diplomats, including Lucy Torres, who had served as a cultural attaché before the recall. Yith believed that private conversations might lead to a compromise solution that would allow both sides to save face while ending the crisis. The other council members agreed to let Yith attempt back-channel negotiations, but they insisted that any agreement would have to be approved by the full council before implementation. They were not willing to give humans everything they demanded, but they were beginning to understand that some concessions would be necessary to prevent total galactic collapse. 6 months after the human withdrawal, 3 minor alien species faced complete collapse of their civilizations. The Aquari had depended entirely on water purification systems designed by human engineer Steve Martinez to maintain their ocean cities. Without proper maintenance, the complex filtration networks began breaking down, allowing toxic chemicals to contaminate the water that billions of Aquari needed to survive. Steve's purification systems had been marvels of engineering that could clean polluted water faster and more efficiently than any alien technology. The Aquari had never learned how these systems worked because they assumed human engineers would always be available to maintain them. Now their crystal-clear oceans were turning murky brown as industrial waste and biological contaminants spread through their underwater cities. The Aquari government declared a planetary emergency as their population began suffering from poisoning and disease caused by contaminated water. Their own scientists tried desperately to repair the purification systems, but they could not understand the complex chemical processes that Steve had designed. Millions of Aquari were forced to evacuate their homes and crowd into the few remaining clean water zones that were becoming smaller every day. The methanoid colonies faced an even worse crisis as their atmospheric processors failed one by one. These aliens lived on worlds with poisonous atmospheres that required constant processing to remain breathable. Human engineers had built sophisticated systems that could convert toxic gases into safe air mixtures that methanoids needed to survive. Without human maintenance, these systems were shutting down, leaving entire worlds uninhabitable. The first methanoid colony world lost its atmospheric processing completely when a critical component failed and no one knew how to replace it. The entire population of 40 million methanoids had to be evacuated to other worlds in emergency rescue ships. The evacuation created refugee camps on overcrowded planets that could barely support their existing populations. Disease and starvation began spreading through the refugee camps as resources ran short. General Paul Richards reported to Earth Command that several alien species had declared war on each other as their civilizations crumbled under the strain of technological failures. The Korthani blamed the Trilaxians for hoarding medical supplies during the plague crisis. The Zenthari accused the hegemony of stealing banking resources during the financial collapse. Old territorial disputes that had been settled for decades were reigniting as desperate governments looked for someone to blame for their suffering. Without human peacekeepers and mediators to prevent conflicts from escalating, the galaxy was sliding toward a massive war involving dozens of species. Human diplomatic corps had spent years building trust between alien civilizations and establishing peaceful solutions to territorial disputes. The delicate balance of galactic politics was falling apart without human wisdom to guide negotiations and prevent misunderstandings from becoming violent conflicts. The first major battle occurred in the Rigel system, where hegemony forces attacked Zenthari mining operations, claiming that the Zenthari had violated ancient treaty boundaries. Both species had been allies for over a century, but the economic crisis had destroyed their cooperation and revived old hatreds. The battle lasted 3 days and resulted in thousands of casualties, as neither side had effective military commanders who understood modern space warfare. Human military advisors had been training alien officers in advanced combat strategies and helping them coordinate joint defense operations. Without this training, alien military forces were using outdated tactics that resulted in unnecessary deaths and destruction. The technological advantages that each species possessed were being wasted because their commanders did not know how to use them effectively against equally advanced opponents. Counselor Yeath made contact with diplomat Lucy Torres through a secret communication channel that bypassed official government networks. Yeath explained that the Galactic Council was ready to discuss major changes to the structure of galactic government, including possible human representation with full voting rights. Lucy listened carefully, but explained that Earth's position had not changed since the withdrawal began. Lucy told Yeath that humanity would only return to galactic society if they were recognized as founding members of a completely new government structure. The old Galactic Council had to be dissolved and replaced with a democratic federation where all species had equal representation regardless of how long they had been members. Any agreement would have to guarantee human rights and prevent the kind of discrimination that had led to the current crisis. The secret negotiations continued for weeks, but neither side was willing to compromise on their core demands. Yeath was authorized to offer humans senior positions in the existing council structure, but she could not promise the complete governmental reorganization that Earth required. Lucy made it clear that partial solutions would not be acceptable and that humans were prepared to remain isolated indefinitely if necessary. The breaking point came when the insectoid hive queen detected massive energy signatures approaching from dark space. Her deep space sensors had picked up readings that suggested something enormous was moving toward the galaxy at faster than light speeds. The energy patterns were unlike anything in their databases and appeared to be artificial rather than natural phenomena. Captain Tony Bell's monitoring network had been designed specifically to detect threats from dark space and provide early warning to galactic civilizations. Without this network, the aliens were blind to whatever was approaching until it was almost too late to respond. The Hive Queen estimated that the unknown threat would reach the outer rim of the galaxy within months, and they had no idea what they were facing. The Hive Queen called an emergency session of the Galactic Council and revealed the approaching threat to the shocked council members. She explained that human monitoring systems had been protecting the galaxy from unknown dangers for decades, while the aliens remained unaware of the risks. The approaching objects were too large and powerful to be natural phenomena and appeared to be some kind of hostile invasion force. Panic spread through the council chamber as the alien leaders realized that their military forces were in no condition to face an unknown enemy. Their civilizations were collapsing from technological failures and their species were fighting each other instead of preparing for external threats. Without human military expertise and advanced defense systems, the galaxy was defenseless against whatever was coming from dark space. The council members who had spent months resisting human demands suddenly understood that their survival might depend on getting humans back into galactic society as quickly as possible. Counselor Vextar, who had led the opposition to human equality, now argued that they should give humans whatever they wanted in exchange for protection against the approaching threat. The Galactic Council voted unanimously to authorize Counselor Yeath to offer humans complete governmental reorganization and founding member status in a new galactic federation. They also agreed to provide full reparations for the economic losses that human companies had suffered during the trade embargo. The vote came 6 months too late, but the aliens hoped it would be enough to convince humanity to help them survive the coming crisis. 18 months after the human withdrawal, a completely new form of galactic government was taking shape in the rebuilt council chambers of Nexus Station. The old Galactic Council had been dissolved and replaced by the Galactic Federation, where every species held equal representation regardless of their history or technological level. The massive chamber had been redesigned with human architectural principles that emphasized openness and democratic participation. Ambassador Lisa Grant returned to lead the human delegation, but this time the other species addressed her as High. Counselor Grant, in recognition of humanity's new status as a founding member of the Federation. Lisa sat at the center of the council table rather than in the observer section where humans had been forced to remain for 50 years. The change in seating arrangements symbolized the complete transformation of galactic politics. The other species had learned painful lessons about the true value of human contributions to galactic civilization. What they had dismissed as minor support services had actually been the invisible foundation holding everything together. Human innovation in technology, diplomacy, and military strategy had enabled other species to achieve levels of prosperity and security they could never have reached on their own. Captain Jake Morrison now commanded joint human-alien fleets that patrolled the galaxy's borders against threats from dark space. The unknown objects that had been detected approaching the galaxy turned out to be automated war machines left over from an ancient conflict between civilizations that had destroyed themselves millions of years ago. These machines were programmed to eliminate any signs of intelligent life they encountered. Jake's fleets used advanced human military tactics combined with the unique strengths of different alien species to defeat the ancient war machines. Human pilots provided the speed and precision needed for dangerous combat maneuvers, while alien species contributed their specialized technologies and knowledge of local space conditions. The combined forces were far more effective than any single species could have been fighting alone. The battle against the ancient machines revealed that humans had been secretly protecting the galaxy for decades, while the other species remained unaware of the threat. Human deep space monitoring networks had detected these machines years ago, and Earth had been quietly building defenses and developing strategies to deal with them. The apparent aggression that aliens had criticized in human expansion was actually preparation for this inevitable conflict. President Helen Carter announced that Earth had been following a long-term plan to create a defensive perimeter around inhabited space while building the industrial capacity needed to fight advanced technological threats. Human colonies in remote systems had been established as early warning posts and supply bases rather than simple settlements. The galaxy's survival had depended on human foresight and planning. The new Federation operated according to human principles of individual rights and democratic representation. Species that had once dismissed humanity as too chaotic and unpredictable now recognized these traits as innovative and adaptable. The cultural diversity that humans brought to galactic civilization encouraged other species to develop their own unique contributions rather than following rigid traditional patterns. Dr. Amy Sullivan established the first interspecies medical academy where alien doctors learned human healing techniques and humans studied alien biology and medicine. The combination of human innovation with alien knowledge created breakthrough treatments that were more effective than anything either group could have developed alone. Life expectancy throughout the galaxy doubled within a single generation. As medical science advanced rapidly, the Academy became a model for cooperation that was copied in other fields, including engineering, agriculture, and scientific research. Human universities began accepting alien students, while Earth sent its brightest minds to study on alien worlds. The exchange of knowledge and ideas accelerated technological development across all member species of the Federation. Engineer Matt Collins returned to rebuild the galactic communication network using improved technology that was more reliable and efficient than the original system. The new network incorporated backup systems and distributed control that prevented the kind of cascading failures that had occurred during the human withdrawal. Alien engineers worked alongside human experts to learn maintenance procedures and ensure the system would survive future crises. The improved communication network enabled real-time coordination between star systems that had been impossible under the old technology. Scientific research projects that involve multiple species could now share data instantly across thousands of light years. Military forces could coordinate defense strategies throughout the galaxy. Trade and commerce flourished as businesses could negotiate and complete transactions without delays. Detective Nick Harrison established the Federation Bureau of Investigation with agents from every member species trained in advanced investigative techniques. The Bureau combined human psychological insight with alien sensory abilities and technological resources to create the most effective law enforcement organization in galactic history. Crime rates dropped to historic lows as criminals discovered. They could not hide from investigators who understood every species and culture. Professor Claire Bennett developed new artificial intelligence systems that were designed to work in partnership with organic intelligence rather than replacing it. The new AI networks enhanced the capabilities of every species while ensuring that critical systems could be operated manually if needed. The mistakes of the past were not repeated as the Federation learned to balance technological advancement with practical sustainability. The economic prosperity that followed Federation formation exceeded anything the galaxy had experienced under the old Council system. Human innovation combined with alien resources and knowledge created new industries and opportunities that benefited every member species. Trade networks expanded as standardized systems and practices made commerce more efficient and reliable. The Federation established colonies in previously unexplored regions of the galaxy, using human exploration techniques and alien scientific knowledge. These joint colonies became centers of research and development, where species could work together on projects too complex for any single civilization to accomplish. The galaxy entered a new age of discovery and expansion. Children throughout the Federation grew up learning about the crisis that had taught the galaxy the importance of cooperation and mutual respect. Human history became a required subject in alien schools, while human children studied the cultures and achievements of other species. The next generation understood that diversity and collaboration were sources of strength rather than problems to be solved. The story of humanity's temporary withdrawal became a founding myth of the new Federation that reminded every species that cooperation and mutual respect were not just ideals but necessities for survival in a dangerous universe. The galaxy had learned that no single species could thrive alone, and that the greatest achievements came from combining different strengths and perspectives in pursuit of common goals.